All right, guys. My name's Adam Bowe with Zometry, and this is Amplify with Adam. Today we have Gary Anderson of one of our partner network members joining us, and we're really excited to talk with Gary today and hear his manufacturing story and really get into some of the trends in manufacturing and just have a really fun conversation. So, Gary, thanks for joining us today. Welcome aboard, man.
Welcome. Thanks.
Yeah. So, could you give us just a little, introduction about yourself, kind of name, company, kind of just a little bit about who you are and what you do?
So my name's Gary Anderson. I started Rare Tool in 1995. I had a partner, and we came from an existing company, which we decided to leave to get into more high tech, more CNC type machining than like the old school type machining.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit about myself. I started in high school actually with a co-op program where I was taking vocational classes at a local high school. Then they got students that would actually go to a job site, and at that job site they would be apprentice training. I'd get graded like just like I was in the classroom for attendance and all that. And then my senior year I graduate, they could keep me on as an apprentice or let me go or whatever, but they decided to keep me, so I did my apprenticeship program with them, got my journeyman's tool and die card. And then I was with that company for 10 years, and then one day one of my workers came up to me and he said, I can see this company kind of like fading out, not getting into the high tech
Mm-hmm.
and following the trend. The owner was up in age, so we decided to leave and to get into the CNC part of it. And so when we left, the first thing we did is rent us some floor space. We got a CNC master cam, a couple machines just to get going, and then just escalated from there to where we're at right now. I got about
That's
20 guys,
awesome.
20 guys working for me right now.
Dang. So
So
you went from one guy in 1995 to 20
20
now. That's
guys.
amazing.
Yeah, it's
So,
a little bit up and down right now because of the whole situation going on. I got a couple guys laid off because of the school.
mm-hmm.
So I run a apprenticeship program here. I want to give back to what I received from the whole program. So I hire high school students right from high school. I can train them, and they do the whole co-op program with me. So I get them for about 2.5, 3 hours a day, and it's just like coming to class. And I hook them up with one of my journeymen, teach them different things throughout the day, throughout their schooling. And then when they graduate from high school, I can actually hire them on and put them through apprenticeship program. Or if I decide not to, I can, just let them go. And but it's a win-win situation for me. I can weed out some, employees.
Yeah.
Plus, it looks good on their resume. Even if they decide to do other things, they have the job experience and use me for a reference.
That's amazing. So I was actually going to ask, like, if you see a lot of the co-op experiences that reference that you got, if you saw those today, because I feel like, when you talk about the education system and a lot, you have a lot of people going into to get degrees in college, and there's less vocational work and education around, or at least it seems that way. And so it's interesting to see that you're kind of establishing that co-op in your own company now. So how many students do you have come through on a yearly basis?
See, that's the thing that you're hitting on. When I first got into it, right around 2000, every year since I've had co-op students. But the first time around, I'd have at least 8 students. They would show up just like a job interview, fill out a
Mhm.
resume, just do a brief interview with them. They'd give me a copy of their resume. And throughout the years, 8 goes down to 6, goes down to 4. The last 3, 4 years, I've only had 1 student.
Really? And
Yeah.
has that student have they been more committed though than the average student that you saw when you had 8? Like, is it more likely that they stick into it, or is it just, kind of a downward trend in involvement overall?
Yeah, I think the downward trend is definitely in manufacturing. I think a lot of teachers kind of steered kids away from skilled trades at one time. Like say 2008, 9, when manufacturing really started to die off a little bit. I think a lot of the students were pushed more for like engineering or healthcare or whatever, but it seems like it's starting to pick up again though. There's a lot of people know there's a lot of need for manufacturing, skilled trades. But I see it picking up a little bit right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how many employees do you have that like went through your co-op program at one time working for you out of the 20 right now?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. My first co-op student still works for me right now.
That's awesome. That's a really cool
He's been
story.
here we've been in business for 25 years. He was one of my first co-op students. But a lot of them, it's like a stepping stone. A lot of my guys throughout the years, I had one guy that went into business for himself. I have another guy that runs another company. I have one guy that used to work for me. That's one of the head guys at an aerospace company. So, I mean, this is like a really good stepping stone. They work for me. They get their journeyman's card. But
Mhm.
right now I probably have about 5 guys that have stayed with me.
That's awesome. I mean, like you said, that's a win-win. It's you get to establish really good employees. And I mean, it sounds like you've already got 2 small businesses that have branched off from the training that you provided, and also stepping into to really interesting work working on aerospace manufacturing
Uh-huh.
as well.
Yeah, and the thing about our program here is we don't just do turning work. We don't do just milling or grinding. It's a full round CNC machine shop. So we
Mhm.
bring raw material right into our shop. I usually have the apprentice saw the material to the prints. It goes from there either to CNC lathe department, milling department. We have jig grinders, wire EDMs, ODID grinders. So it's a good place to start because the students get to get switched around and a little bit of experience on every single machine than some shops that are just turn only. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and super focused. So, did you? I'm assuming you didn't in 1995. Have all of those capabilities. Like when have you seen kind of like spikes in growth or expansion into to adding capabilities within your shop, or did you launch in 1995 with all of those?
No, actually, when we started business in 1995, we pretty much went out the door looking for customers. We had a couple new companies that were looking for someone to do manufacturing. So we
Hmm.
started out with the basics, a lathe, the CNC machining center, prototrack mill. And then from there, we hooked in with a couple really good customers. And as they grew, we grew to meet their needs, and
Yeah.
then slowly hired in and picked up new customers, mostly word of mouth. We never really had to go banging on doors to get work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good way to do it, man. That's a good way to do it. And that's a lot of stories in the manufacturing space is, really great relationships with customers, and the shop grows with the customer, and et
Hmm.
cetera. So now when did you, obviously you're part of the Xometry Partner Network. When did you join Xometry? And kind of how has that impacted your shop?
So that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. So a year and a half ago, I got to thinking I just knew that 2020 was going to be a challenging year. I
Hmm.
can see a lot of my customers, especially automotive, um, was starting to like get hesitant because of the upcoming election or whatever. I don't want to get into that, but I could see the hesitation, and I'm like heard about Xometry, really didn't have a lot of time to research it. So we really started to research it. We did all the paperwork, got our sample part, had one of my guys do that, turned it in, all passed through, and I could see that this would be a good opportunity for a lot of my guys out there. If we started to slow down, I could just hop on and pick up some work as I needed.
Hmm.
And I'm really grateful that I did because we've had an extremely slow period of time, probably March all up until present, actually. We've been fairly slow and had some big projects put on hold. So I'm
Yeah.
like, hop on Xometry and, I could get, the stuff's already on the board. So I could look through some jobs and like, oh, my mill guy's in between jobs right now. I could instantly pick up some work and have them within hours running parts. So it's a win-win situation, I think, for Xometry and us to be able
Yeah.
to manufacture stuff really quick, and we have the spare time to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, you just described our business model, right? Like most shops use us to fill work and to fill time. Now, obviously, we have folks that take almost exclusively Xometry jobs, but we know that you guys have fantastic relationships with local customers, and it's mainly about, like you said, if you're not making chips, then that's a bad situation. So what we want to do is just provide you with that time to and those jobs to fill that time. Now, you said you've been in a slow time since like March until now. Are you seeing an upward trend and kind of like your customers start to get more excited as we get into the year and working on projects? And are you starting to sense a trend upward in that way?
Yeah, exactly. Probably 2 weeks ago, I've just started seeing a trend. Automotive has kicked off a couple big programs that they've had on hold or hesitant to start, I guess. But yeah, we're starting to really pick up right now. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, when you look at kind of what the future holds, maybe 2021, a little bit beyond, is there anything that's kind of like drawing your eye? Because it sounds like your shop has consistently expanded capabilities. Is there anything that you're looking at like, hey, in 2021, we've got to layer this in, or 2022 and further on, something we definitely want to be looking at as far as machines or capabilities or really anything in the manufacturing industry that's kind of drawing your eye?
probably the biggest challenge right now is everybody wants everything as fast as possible. So whatever we can do to do that. So hiring more people, like strictly, my goal is to hire someone that's completely like inspection,
Hmm.
full-time inspector. Right now we have part-time. My guys will switch off and inspect parts. They're always inspecting parts as they make them, but just anything I can do to get stuff out the door quicker is what our goal is for next year.
Yeah, and is the time? Do you see that with customers wanting, because I do think that a lot of the advancements made in like e-commerce experience, for example, right? Like shipping is a big time for folks, or is it actually the time making the part that you're seeing customers want, to be quicker and quicker?
Probably making the parts, like outside services, like getting parts anodized. I work with local companies that do a lot of expediting for me and
Mhm.
not charge me for it. So, trying to get with your other vendors and work together where we can get stuff to them and back to us quick. Because a lot of the customers want everything start to finish complete. They don't want us get the parts, send them out to the anodizer. They want us to take care of everything.
Yeah.
And so working with other customers in a timely matters is what we strive for,
Yeah, so the finishing services on parts and example, yeah, that makes a
like
lot of
heat
sense.
treat. Yeah, heat treat outside services that we don't do in-house. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing, man. And like I said, the story of your shop is phenomenal. And just that's why we love talking about this stuff, is because the ability to start something and then 25 years later you've got your first employee working there, you're growing, expanding capabilities. There's just so many amazing stories like that in manufacturing. Now, if you were one thing that I'm interested in is like when you have the co-op students showing up to your shop, is there like one nugget of information that like was passed to you at one point, or like one lesson that you like say, hey, this is, if you're going to take away anything from this experience, take away this. Is there anything like that you try to pass on to the folks, kind of passing through your shop, or looking to start a career in manufacturing?
Yeah, like a lot of my students, my old boss, one of the things that always stuck out with me is no matter what, always look busy. I don't care if you're pushing a broom or just always look busy, even if you're in between jobs, always look busy. So I tell my students that because the boss could be coming around with customers or this or that. You always want to be concentrating, you always want to be busy. If
Mhm.
you're waiting for another job to show up, sweep around your area and all that. But that's just like one little tip I tell them. But we try to train the guys once they come in the door. A lot of my students, we train them from the ground up, everything from safety, which is a huge issue here. I just drill safety in them over and over and over.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, safety is that's a big issue or a big point of focus and emphasis should be on in every shop, right?
yeah.
Because obviously, some amazing machines at work in a manufacturing area, but those
Mhm.
amazing machines can also, impact the rest of your life very, very quickly if you're not paying attention. But I love the idea of staying busy and, because I think one thing is like, even if you feel like you need to like fill the time with sweeping around your area, what that trains you to do is keep your area clean, keep it safe, right? Always be
Exactly.
looking for something to be learning or consuming and cleaning and making sure that everything is organized, because organization, cleanliness, etc., that all ladders up to safety within a shop.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with the tight tolerances and
Mhm.
everything that we do in our shop. I mean, everything has to be clean. The granite tables have to be wiped down. I mean, any little chip or anything in the way could throw parts off um, when you're doing
Absolutely.
setups. So,
Absolutely. Well, man, this has been an amazing conversation. Is there anything else that you'd like to kind of like pass along to some of the listeners, or any, kind of last thoughts that you'd like to pass out there?
well, if anybody's thinking about exometry, like when I first got into it, I was really nervous. I'm like, because I wanted to do good with the exometry. And I was thinking, well, I'm going to have to get rid of some of my customers to take exometry on. But now that I've gotten into it, I don't feel that way. I mean, I constantly have exometry work in here. I've never lapsed on it. So I'd go through the board, pick out a few jobs, which is really, really nice because I can find simpler jobs for my co-op students
Hmm.
and more complex jobs for some of my complex machines where I don't actually have work for. So, I mean, if someone's thinking about doing exometry, I wouldn't hesitate. I would definitely look into it.
Well, thank you for that endorsement, and no, we did not seed that statement with Gary. That was better than anything I could have asked you to say there, man. But no, I've really enjoyed being able to speak with you a little bit this morning and hear your story and just it's an amazing story that I think passes along some good nuggets of information to anyone looking to get into manufacturing or looking to start a relationship with Zometry. So thank you very much for taking a little time out of your busy schedule and speaking with us.
Hey, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys.